Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are joining us from on this planet. My name is Meg. I am part of Power to Fly's virtual hosting team, and I am incredibly excited to get started on today's event with each of you. Now, before we do that, I'm going to dive into some real quick housekeeping, especially important if you maybe have never joined us for an event before, or if it's been a while since you've joined us for one of these virtual events. So just a couple quick housekeeping items for y'all to know. Participation is the most important thing to us. We want to make sure that you all get what you came to get out of today's session, that these chat and learns are valuable to each of you. And so we want to make sure that you understand you have the power to drive today's conversation, especially if you are here, part of our live audience for our recording and as well as our live stream. Now, to that end, you can do a couple different things. I see a bunch of people starting to turn their cameras on. That's awesome. I love to see people's smiling, maskless faces safely during quarantine. If you are not Instagram perfect, that is fine. Truly, y'all. I think this is the first time I washed my hair in like 4 days. I usually rock a very, very dry shampoo, heavy messy bun. So please understand, we want to meet you where you are. Y'all don't need a professional backdrop. If you are working from an ironing board in your kitchen, that is fine. Bring your furry coworkers, bring your child supervisors, whatever you got going, we want to meet you where you are. So please feel free to join us to your own comfort level. Now, if you do, one thing I want to highlight for everybody is we will ask that you remain on mute today. It's just to make sure audio clarity is good on the call. So if you have any kind of privacy issues or concerns, no worries, you will not show up on the live recording or on the stream of this unless you come off mute. Now, like I did say, today's session is being live streamed and recorded. Now, what that means for you all is that you don't have to take notes. You don't have to worry about missing the reference that somebody made, or if you didn't quite catch the end of that sentence, or if you came in late, which is totally fine, y'all. You can leave, you can come back. My feelings are not hurt. It is fine. But you don't have to worry about like missing these things. So you can always go back and rewatch the recording later. In about 1 to 2 business days, everybody's going to get an email from Power to Fly with a link to where they can rewatch this recording on our website. Now, if Anna says something today that is just so like mind-blowing, unbelievable, you've never heard better advice in your life, you can't wait to share it with somebody, you do not have to wait those 1 to 2 business days. You can always go over to our YouTube channel. I'll share the link to that in the chat here in just a little bit. But you can go over to our YouTube channel. You can search. There's a huge backlog of our recorded chats that are housed on that YouTube channel. You can also search all of our archives on our website. So I definitely recommend that you check that out. Now, so everybody's going to get that rewatch link. You can always share this information. All of these events are free, and we want to share our resources with as many people as possible. So please feel free to take photos, video as we go, share with your own social networks. If you tag us, we would love to share, reshare, tweet, retweet, whatever you got going on. We are at Power to Fly on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you follow us on any of our other social media channels, we share all kinds of great stuff, job postings, blogs. We have great advice from recruiters at these various companies, really, really awesome content and awesome resources for all of you. So please feel free to share those. We would love to see, how far our audience is spreading. Now, I know that y'all are excited to dig in, and I want to share before we introduce you to our speaker that Anna is here today on behalf of Helm. Now, Helm is one of Power to Fly's partner companies, and we're so happy to be partnered with them. But the one thing that I want you to know about Helm, and I'm gonna grab the link here in just a moment. The screen that you're looking at right now is Helm's company page on powertofly.com. So if you check out their page, and I'll send you, like I said, that link here in just a moment. What you're going to see is like basically what you're looking at right now. Now, this page is where you can check out more information about Helm. You can look into, their open benefits. You can see what open roles they have posted with us. You can see events that they've participated in, as well as events that they're going to participate on with us, whatever's scheduled out this far. So I definitely recommend you take a look there. Now, if something that Anna says today, or if something that you read on Helm's website makes you interested in them, one thing that I recommend is you go to the top right corner of their company page and you click that big button that says follow. That is going to put you on Helm's follow network. You can do this for as many companies as you like on powertofly.com. But one thing to know is it does a couple of really great things for you, but effectively it works like your friend at the company. So it's going to let Helm know that you are interested in working with them even before you fill out an application. Super, super great, and a nice tool if you are actively searching but don't see anything that fits your fits your skill set right now. It's also a great way to shortlist companies if you are planning on in the future looking into other orgs. It's a great way to kind of keep them on your radar. But the other good news is that we are going to keep you up to date when they post those new roles. So you don't have to worry about, going back and rechecking job boards or anything like that. It's a really nice service, and it's totally free function of the website for all of you, for our community members. So please feel free to take advantage of that. Now, I'm really excited to jump in with our speaker. So I've been talking with Anna before we started the chat today, and I'm really excited to continue this conversation. Now, Anna is a product leader with a background in big data, and she has over 8 years of analytics experience bridging the gap between products, data, and insights to deliver impactful solutions, informed strategies, as well as profitable results. Now, Anna is known to bring energy, drive, transparency, and a terrible sense of humor into her work. And I really hope she's going to bring all of that to today's session with all of you. Anna, is there anything else you'd like to add to this, intro before we dive into questions? Oh, there we go. Hold on.
I can unmute myself. Hooray! Hooray. No, just thank you so much, Meg and Power to Fly, for letting me be a part of this this chat and learn. I'm really excited to share my own personal stories as well as answer any questions that anybody might have. Yes, terrible sense of humor. Please expect a lot of sarcasm, and maybe you won't understand all of it because that's what I do. That's okay. I laugh to myself. I don't need anyone else to laugh with me.
Oh, same. I laugh at my own jokes hard enough. Nobody else needs to. It's fine. I think I'm very funny. So yeah, I love that. Okay, so to get us into today's event and today's subject matter, what you're seeing right now are some of the main takeaways that we want you to leave today's session with. Now, like I said earlier, you will have the power to drive this conversation. So if somebody's, if Anna says something that you'd like to expand on, please feel free to let us know. Type into the chat. Let me know what questions you would like to be here to know. If you submitted a question during registration for today's event and you're worried or aren't sure if we're going to be able to get to it, ask it again. Send it in the chat there. If you want to ask a question but you'd like to be kept anonymous, that is totally fine. Doesn't matter what reason. I'm happy to do that. Just DM your question or comment to me. You'll find my name. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. You'll find my name, Meg Alexander, on the dropdown. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to touch on some ways to gain relevant experience before you apply for a PM job. We're going to discuss some of the transferable skills that you would need to succeed once you were able to get into those roles, as well as what hiring managers are looking for in a product manager, project. Sorry, I'm not technical, y'all, so I know there's a difference. I don't know what it is. So hopefully we'll dig in on that with Anna today. All right, so let's dive in here. Let's see, stop sharing the screen. There we go. Let's dive in on some of these questions. So first things first, and Anna, I promise I did not submit this question, but I think it's probably good to help level set. What does a product manager do exactly?
Well, this is the one question that I always get. And when anyone actually finds out, please let me know. I would love to know more about this. But really, at the highest level, product managers are really involved in almost every aspect of the business. They help gather requirements from the business. They help forecast or propose how much money it can make a company. They also take all of the business needs, problems. They work with designers to come up with good solutions and then translate all of those things and distill it down to, in my experience, engineering teams that will actually go and build the product. So they essentially own the backlog. They prioritize the solutions that they're putting forward. They do some research. They do market research, customer research to make sure that the solutions they're putting in place are actually will fit the market need. And then they're also that filter from the business side to the more engineering side of the business to really make sure that the engineers understand what they need to build. So it's like kind of a translator of business to technical, from technical to business, the impact it would have. And it really plays a huge role in every aspect of the company.
Very, very cool. Thank you for breaking that down. It's definitely something I've never had specifically referenced before. So thank you for that. All right. So if we're looking at, potential for PM roles in the future, how do you think you set yourself up for success? Are there things that people can do ahead of time, or, what do you recommend in this area?
Yeah, and really my advice for this is going to be the same regardless of whether you're moving into a PM role or just trying to move further in your career, right? I like to stick with the notion of becoming some sort of subject matter expert, whether that's in your industry. Let's say it's the fashion industry, the tech industry. In my experience, it's data per se. That, and then a subject matter expertise in really what your line of work is. So for a while, I was an analyst, right? So I worked with data. I knew what the insights were. I told stories with data. So my transition into being a product manager really stemmed from my knowledge about data pipelines, what the business would want to see from the data, what KPIs are actually impactful, and telling a story with that, and then turning that into something that can be built upon in the future. Another big thing I think would be to find a role model. So having these skill sets are really good, but it also takes a role model to follow, I think, to really hone in your soft skills. Soft skills is a major component, I think, of being a successful product manager, as well as just really anyone's career, right? With a good role model, you'll end up with understanding where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and identifying what needs to be worked on. And quite frankly, you don't have to be good at everything, like at all. I am terrible at responding to emails and I have worked around it. But at the same time, for being a product manager, you can't be super terrible at any one thing. So like, know what you're great at, make it even better, know what you're terrible at, and try to improve upon it so that you end up with this nice range of soft skills across the board.
Excellent. Do you think that, just as a aside that occurred to me just now, do you think there's any one soft skill that you think is truly pivotal, something that helps with the others, or something that's like really, really necessary for that role?
Yeah. So in my case, what I ended up working on was confidence. I am naturally not a confident person. I second guess every decision I make, and exuding confidence out into the world and really fosters confidence for your team in you and your decision-making process, as well as the proposals and solutions you're putting out into market. That's what I personally worked on. I know that there are other people who are naturally confident, so that's not something they had to work on, but maybe their organizational skills were lacking. And a lot of people do not really digest information in the same way. Some are readers, some are writers, they can just listen to everything and really understand. But whatever will make you successful, I think, is what is good for the team and what is good for the company at the time.
Oof, thank you. I'm feeling that very hard. There's a lot of people really loving this. So thank you for sharing that with us. All right. A lot of people wanted to know, is managerial experience necessary for a product manager? There were a lot of people that kind of like, what do you think on that? Before we touch on the second part of this question, do you think that managerial experience is necessary?
No, absolutely not. I do not think managerial experience is necessary. However, I do feel that a product manager will need to understand how to have the managerial skills in place. Most product managers do not have any direct reports unless they're like higher up in the product organization where they're managing other product managers. But more commonly, what you find yourself managing are teams across the entire organization. You're bridging finance with legal, with engineering, with literally everybody, right? And sales and marketing. You have to really understand who your teammates are for the product that you're putting out there. So while no one technically reports to you potentially, you still have to manage a lot of people and find a way to motivate them and make them driven and make them believe in the product that you guys are actually putting out into the world.
Oh, I like that. It kind of harkens back to what you said earlier about kind of having to be a translator. Those like communication must be a huge boon to your skills there.
Right.
Yeah. Now, we did have a lot of people that were, like they said, they were kind of concerned about like needing to have that managerial experience. When you talked about kind of developing those manager type skill sets, a lot of one question really stuck out to me. This person said, "How can I gain that managerial experience when my org is very small with little opportunities to grow?" Do you have any tips for people that are trying to, like you said, like build up those skills outside of being a people manager?
Yeah, I think for a person in this role, I'm not really quite sure if they're working cross collaboratively or not, but I think a good step forward would be to just maybe find a place that you can start to be a mentor, right? Like if part of being a manager is allowing your team to grow and helping empowering your team as best as you can. So if you can find a way to be a mentor, or if you can find a way to even direct even upper management, right? Like if you can find the solutions and propose that to upper management and try to have them adopt it. They are essentially your first market experience into convincing someone that your idea is the right idea to take. So really in almost any, I think, position, you can put something out there to work on your managerial skills.
I love that. I think you're right. Like it's definitely something you can seek out. There's various ways to get those skill sets developed. And I mean, honestly, like you said, talking to a mentor would be hugely helpful because even if you can't like move to a role that would automatically give you those kinds of responsibilities or would expose you to those things, there are ways to, try and expand on the things that you are the owner of, the things
Right.
that you are in charge in any way.
Right.
Asking for more responsibility, that kind of thing.
I actually want to dive in deeper on that mentorship aspect of things because I do find it really important. While it is really important to find somebody that you want to embody. They have skills, capabilities. Maybe they're just the funny person in the room, and you notice it just breaks down the ice in any like group setting you're in. Alternatively, there are also people I'm sure everyone works with that you find a little bit annoying at times, where you realize this isn't a trait that I ever want to be known for, right? So finding a role model and then really anti-role models and trying to identify how or when they use these behaviors in certain situations is really key. A good thing to have with a mentor, though, is the mentor themselves don't necessarily have to be the person that embodies all of these traits and qualities. I think a good mentor is someone who is looking out for you and your career growth and making sure that they try and give you opportunities or point you in directions that can help you grow in the path that you want to take. And that could be a peer, that could be someone, a subordinate, or even an actual boss or someone else within some other part of your organization, or someone who doesn't even work with you, right? Like there are many opportunities to find a mentor that can take you down the path that you want to go into.
I love that idea of thinking of people as in terms of mentors, not just people who are, superior to you in the org chart or people who've been doing this longer. I love that idea of kind of learning from multiple people, from multiple sources, because most people have like an amalgamation. Most people don't just get their entire body of knowledge from one source. So I absolutely love that idea of branching out, not just to people that you see and aspire to be like, but also people you work with. I love that. All right, so if you, as we're talking about kind of requirements or like kind of baseline things that are needed to be a PM, can you kind of tell us about people that don't have bachelor's degrees? Is there like a specific certification or a specific field that people should gain experience in if they are trying to ascend to a PM role?
Yeah, so bachelor's degrees, I actually know a few PMs without a bachelor's degree. So my answer to this is you absolutely do not need one. Although I will caveat that with it will likely be harder to enter the field without one. But again, going back to subject matter expert, the right combination of soft skills and hard skills, market knowledge and experience, and really a conjunction of understanding with how to use your experience and frame it in a way that's best suited for the product or the company or its strategy would really likely help you to become a PM. In terms of certification, to get that true understanding, there this is not like a sponsored thing, but Scrum Alliance actually does a certified product owner course, which I believe gives a really nice overview of what life as a product manager should be, product manager, product owner should be. And I will also caveat it with, it is all in like the agile mindset, which is really the only experience I have. I haven't really worked at a company that wasn't trying to be agile. And if you don't know what agile is, it's just a framework in which people work. And there are different frameworks for different companies. Additionally, the whole course is based off of this idealized notion of what people are going to do within a company, and that is just not the case, right? So you need to take that entire course with a grain of salt, but it does give you the foundation, kind of the overview of what it is to be a product owner day in and day out. And even after a couple of years of being a PM, after taking that course, it kind of gave me a refresher. It gave me new perspective, new ideas on how to do certain things like prioritize solutions, as well as different weighting mechanisms and different ways to say no, very creative ways to say no.
Ooh, I love that. I love the creative ways to say no. It's an art form, y'all. Seriously, it is. I thank you so much for diving in on that. Okay, so we're getting some really great questions in the chat thread, so I'm going to try and get to as many of these as we can. But if you have questions, please keep sending them in. I'm going to be recording all of them. So if we are not able to get to your question, hopefully we'll be able to circle back with Helm and get you some more information later. All right. So when you're talking about things, we're talking about the education background. A lot of people wanted to know if something like an advanced degree is good or is beneficial to land a PM role. A lot of people asked about MBAs in particular. What's your opinion on this?
I would say traditionally, MBAs are like were the minimum requirement for a product manager, but quite frankly, the industry is changing. Similar to the last question, right? Like I know a few people who are PMs without even a bachelor's degree. I personally do not have an MBA. I'm going to put that out there. And yet here I am, right? And I will also say that 80% of the product team at Helm do not have MBAs. But we do have really good market experience. A couple of my teammates right now are really, really experts in the organizing and the civic field. So they bring all of the business use cases. They know the ins and outs of organizing. They know really the end-to-end user experience that they would want to put out there in market. I personally am not. I am not of the civic mindset. I am not of the organizing background, but I do have a background in data. And I do know how components and systems work together, which is where I come in, right? Like that is my subject matter expertise. And the two very, very different perspectives actually leads, I think, to a more efficient like product lifecycle and build phase. So yeah, that is my answer.
I like that. Yeah, I love the different perspectives and being able to combine them to get yourself to a different answer. It's one of those things that you think about, if you're trying to solve problems that haven't been solved yet, you need differing viewpoints. You need some like fresh eyes on the project. So I think that's really great that you get to bring both of those experiences together. We had a lot of people that wanted to talk about pivoting roles, especially there were a lot of people within tech or within IT that wanted to kind of talk about what it would look like to pivot. One of the examples we got, this person wants to pivot from a customer-facing software implementation consultant into a product manager in the SaaS, which is software as a service space. And they're talking about how most roles seem to require that direct PM experience, even for associate PM roles. So when it comes to this kind of pivoting, what are your thoughts on this? Like what have you seen be more effective or maybe less common?
Yeah. So one of the things I would say to that is really just to ignore the requirements. I know that's very non-producty of me to say ignore the requirements coming from like a role. But really, quite frankly, this goes for any job. I always highly recommend like altering your resume and your framing of things, whether it be in your resume, your interviews, your discussions internally, to really highlight the mindset of whatever position it is you're trying to go for. So for a product mindset, just generally speaking, it really needs to be solutions oriented. It really needs to have that problem solving. You need to understand the market. So you're constantly curious, you're constantly asking questions. And I can honestly say I ask way more questions in a day than I actually say answers or statements to, because here I am trying to understand really deeply what the needs are from the business perspective, the engineering perspective, and understanding the impact my answer will actually have to that problem. So really that framing, right? So for this particular case, right, like they're looking to transition from a consultant to a kind of like a SaaS role, right? Or a SaaS product role. And quite frankly, that is a good position to be in, because consultants typically are the ones in markets trying to understand the customer's pain points, problems, really understand, like, why don't you like our product? Why do you like our product? They are the face of the entire company. And quite frankly, like, that is a good position to be in, because that means you now have insight into the biggest pain points that your product line is currently facing. That also means that you are in a prime position to create solutions for those pain points. And if you can market it as such, and you can tell your company why it's a good thing from a finance or strategic perspective, from an adoption perspective, I think that's key.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. I like kind of reframing it into something that deals in, the value that this person wants to see, or, how it can benefit the team as a whole. I really like that. Thank you for kind of calling that out there. Let's see. Chelsea is chiming in the chat saying that was my question, and I really appreciate your answer. I will admit I'm guilty of counting myself out of opportunities just because of the written requirements stated in the job posting. Yeah, don't do it, y'all. Like, I hear this all of the time, but like, don't do it. Anna, you're reacting strongly. What would you say to Chelsea?
I am reacting strongly because I will say that I've counted myself out of applying to numerous jobs, even when I was an analyst, just because it said 5 to 10 years of analytics experience. I can tell you that telling somebody that they need 5 to 10 years of experience for an entry-level job is absolute crap. That is never going to happen. Ignore the years, if you don't meet all of the criteria, that is fine. 80%, 90%, 70%, always stretch further than you think you can go, because in the event that you get picked up, you have the opportunity to showcase whatever skills that you really want to showcase. And that gives you an opportunity to move into the field that you want. Like, don't let the fear of no be the reason that you don't do something.
Yes. One more time for the people in the back, y'all. Seriously, we talk. I sit on a lot of these chats, right? So I have talked about like how to find a job, and I've interviewed people that do this professionally, like all this kind of stuff. But I'm telling you, this is the one like consistent thing everybody talks about. They're truly, Anna's right. If you are looking at a role and you already know how to do every single one of those things, it is not going to be a challenge. So are you going to be bored in 3 months when you're up to speed with the rest of the team, but you're not really growing? The other thing that's like super important to think about, oh my God, and of course it just went out of my head. Oh, you're interviewing these companies just as much as they're interviewing you. So that one's huge. And when it comes to looking at like, what do you have? What do you need? I use the 3/5 rule. So if there's 5 topics, 5 like skills listed that they want, and I have 3 of those, and the other 2 are like stuff that's teachable, you know what I mean? Like, not like we expect you to have a degree and I obviously won't have that by next weekend kind of thing. So like, as long as that's, as long as the thing that you're missing is something that is teachable, yes, do it. Apply. The worst they can say is no, truly. Oh, and consider the source. Those job descriptions they're written for unicorns, truly. Like, that's your ideal. And like, I could write you a description of like, I want somebody to come work at my company and I want to do this and this and this. I mean, it's a wish list. So just because you don't have every single thing does not mean you're not qualified. It doesn't mean that you're not okay to be considered. They're looking for a unicorn, and most people end up with zebras or horses. So that's okay. Just keep in mind, just because you're not magical doesn't mean you are not, suited for purpose in this role. So yeah. Sorry guys, I end up talking way too much on these.
No. I really want to +1 +100 that you are interviewing whatever company as much as you. Like, that is, you should always walk in saying, why should I work for you?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Please, people, please think about these things. Okay, so when we're talking about these kinds of things, I'm getting great questions from the chat, y'all. I'm going to ask one more that was on a pre-submitted list from what y'all asked, but then I'm going to keep diving in here. So please don't get frustrated thinking we're not answering questions. This person had asked, what's the best way to approach transferable skills on a resume that might not be seen as technical, but also may not be enough to flag an ATS system? And this is a common thing we hear from people, right? Pretty much everybody outside of actual recruiters hates the ATS kind of structure. But even recruiters understand that like it's erasing the human aspect of it. So if you are trying to approach these transferable skills on a resume, how do you recommend doing this? How have you seen it work most effectively in the past?
Yeah, that's a really good question. First of all, screw the ATS systems. Second of all, for resumes, I think there's really two ways to approach this. One of them is to really reword your resume and give it new perspective. This, I think, is very common. I have a lot of friends who ask me to review their resumes for positions they want to go for, or positions that I might have been in. Maybe they're going for an analytical role or a product role, and they're like, how do I reword this, right? This goes for every role, but on a resume, I tend to take the approach of don't tell me what you've done, but tell me what you've accomplished. Basically, take a line like, in my role, I've created customer satisfaction reports. Like, cool, awesome. What did that do, right? So instead of saying I created these reports, say that I provided insights and implemented solutions to adopt X% more customers. Like, what did you do with those customer service or customer satisfaction reports that actually made an impact to your company, to your business, to your department? And then the second thing, super cheeky, but there are a ton of modern resume templates out there, and a lot of them are starting to explicitly call out soft skills, critical thinking, problem solving, communication, written communication. Like, written communication and verbal communication, very different. I know someone who makes the best docs and cannot speak. It's okay. But there is no shame in calling out within your own resume. Yeah, my critical thinking is at 100%, but my written communication could use some work. I rate that as a 50%. And just the act of putting in the soft skills in that format will also trigger it to get picked up by the systems, like calling out those skills as well.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying about like you're interviewing this company as well. So if what you're telling them is like you said, Anna, if what you're telling them is like, hey, my critical thinking is just out of this world. Here's where I could use some improvement, and their response is like, okay, that's fine. What how much experience do you have? If they're breezing past that kind of stuff and it's not really important to them, gives you a window into the company. Like, ask the questions, but listen to the answers. Are they happy that you told them that? Do they not care? Are you asking a question that they really rather you didn't ask? Like, truly listen to these things. But I love that idea of like calling them out. Resume templates have come a long way in the time. I mean, I think I entered the workforce. Oh God, y'all, that makes me feel so old, like 20 years ago. I'm 1,000 now, but like I entered the workforce like 20 years ago, and that was not like everybody had like the very rigid, very formal, very like structured thing. I mean, I had an objective sentence at the top of my resume, like for the longest time, and no one does that anymore, y'all. Like, I must have been the last of the dinosaurs because like nobody does that. So yeah, like take advantage of some of these better advances that we've made, in kind of doing things in a more creative way, so you can really show like who you are and what you bring. All right, before we go off of transferable skills, how do you answer the question of what projects have you worked on if all you're using to apply to this is those transferable skills, if you've never had a role like, that you can point to experience with?
Yeah, that's really great. So what projects have you worked on? Talk about it. Like, actually seriously talk about it. Talk about the complexity of the product. Talk about the collaboration that was needed. Talk about the expected or actual outcomes of it, right? Like, I am a product owner for a data team, right? And I have been for a couple of years now, but I'm not a data scientist, nor am I a data engineer. But we've delivered analytics warehouses that are all data driven. We provided these insights to clients, and I was on every single client call with the business teams. Like, just because I personally do not have a tangible output, right? Like, I am involved in every step of the way. And I think by showcasing that during this project, you were the glue that put the pieces together. That in itself is a transferable skill that needs to be focused on. Yeah, I don't know if that really answered the question, but that's how I like to frame it.
Yes, no, I think that's good. If this was your question and you want to dig in or you want to give us some more context or something, please feel free, type it in the chat, let us know. We can always circle back to this. Okay, so we had a really, really great question that I want to touch on. This person had asked, if you had to start over from scratch in your product management career, what's the first thing you would do?
Ooh.
Right? This is a good question. I'm sorry to spring this on you because I feel like this could be a really deep one. But yeah, like that's a really good question. Like if I was starting out, granted, I've gone through like 6 careers at this point, but like, I graduated in 2008. It was a terrible economy, any port in a storm. But like, you know what I mean? If I was starting over, there's definitely things I would do differently, knowing that this was where I was going to end up. So how about you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I really, whoever asked this, thank you so much. This is great. One thing that I think took me way too long to learn in my time as a PM is learn to be wrong. Learn to be confident in knowing that you don't know something. For a very long time, and I think especially because I came from an analytical background, people look to me for answers. Why did this KPI drop? Why did this KPI rise? Like, what do we do next, right? And you need to have insights and answers for that. And you strive not to be wrong. However, when you're in product, there is very oftentimes someone who is smarter than you in the room. Actually, all the time, someone should be smarter than you in the room. If you are not getting smart people in a room, you are going to fail probably. No, but learning to be confident when I don't know something, learning to ask the questions that may seem like the silliest questions. And then you realize later on that it maybe wasn't a silly question. There's the phrase, there's no such thing as a stupid question, reigns so true for product.
Oh God, yes.
If you do not understand it, you are not going to be able to explain it. You are not going to be able to translate it to your engineers, to your business counterparts, anything. You have to understand everything inside and out. And if I had known that when I first started, I think I would have come a much further way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's very, very important to remember. Thank you. And thank you so much for this question. That came right out of the chat today. So thank you all for submitting those questions. Okay, let's go back and talk about some of the qualities of a successful PM. Obviously, this might depend on the industry you're in, but what have you seen be a key kind of indicator of, oh, this person's going to be good at this job, or this is part of why this person is so good?
Yeah, this is not going to be an answer that anyone wants to hear, but it is different for literally everybody. I am high energy. I am super transparent. I have terrible humor, and I am quick to make decisions. I am quick to move, which is great for, the positions that I'm in. However, that is not going to be great for other teams, other projects, other products, right? Like there are products that need to be more exploratory. So you need to be able to think more abstractly. You need to be comfortable with the unknown. You need to be comfortable with knowing you're wrong or pivoting or changing directions, right? And then there's others that need to be super structured. I think a couple skills that will reign true for all of them is you kind of have to have thick skin, really. You have to know, like, you're going to receive pushback. There are people whose opinions are always going to differ. So you either need to learn or you both need to learn how to hear these opinions, consider the opinions, and take it in stride, and also be able to swallow your own pride saying, oh, my solution wasn't the best solution, we should go with yours. So there's a lot of give and take. There's a lot of pushback. There's a lot of trying to convince people and also being convinced yourself. But at the end of the day, everyone's product management style is very, very different. And your style kind of also is a symbol of how your team style is. It kind of has to reflect how your team works. You kind of mold yourself to make sure that your team is empowered to do the best they can. So depending on your team, depends on it, that kind of guides what your personality or style will be. And then it also guides, further down the road. So that's
yeah. Yeah, honestly, you are not, you're winning bonus points with me because I come from 6 years as a paralegal and a legal background. So the answer to every question is always, it depends. And then there's a huge thing after it. So you're after my own heart with this, because you're right. Like it does drastically depend on the workplace and on the team dynamic and on you as a person. So yeah, thank you for kind of helping us to understand, there's no real one answer, but it is good to know that there are different options, and it's not just one size fits all. It's not just like you have to be good at blah blah blah, and if you're not, find something else, keep moving. All right, so we did have a question that came out of the chat, and I'm not sure if this is a company specific title. Like I know some companies have like kind of internal lingo for stuff. One person had asked, are product managers the same as NPI, or new product introduction managers? I've never heard that title, but maybe you have?
I have not heard this title either, so I apologize to whoever asked this.
Hey, no worries. This is what we do. Okay, let's talk about, let's see. All right, this person wanted to know, what does a promotion look like as a product manager? Is it just a title? Are there different metrics that you're graded on? Is this something that exists at your organization? What does maybe the career journey look like once you get to PM?
Yeah, I think this is highly dependent on the company, right? At my current company, there is a product manager, there is a senior product manager, director, senior director, VP, etc. At other companies I've been at, there wasn't really a junior product manager, but there was like, I don't know, it's like I don't even know the title for it, but there was a level below it that kind of shadowed a PM, where they would be more of like the executionary aspect of the responsibility. So the PM would be there, they would be the visionary, and then there would be like the more executionary aspect that would go to all of the Scrum meetings. Scrum is just a fancy word to say like stand up or sync meetings that happen daily, or to plan. And so like there was like the visionary, and then there was the executionary, and they broke that up into two different things. And then at other companies I have never worked at, like maybe Netflix or Microsoft, they have like a PM, and it just stays that way. And regardless of your experience, your title is product manager, and you just, I don't know, their pay range is ridiculous. So I think that's highly dependent on where you are.
Okay, all right. A question that might be a little bit easier for you to answer, or at least a little less soul searching. A lot of people wanted to know what a typical day looks like for you. Can you kind of give us an idea of this?
Yeah, so a typical day is never the same. What is the same though is, due to the agile mindset or the framework that that Helm works with, there are daily Scrum meetings. So I think I talked through these. Every day there is a stand up or a sync with your engineering team. And then after that, there are a bunch of other meetings. So I typically meet with the business or revenue teams, sales teams, to make sure that whatever insights they're hearing from market get funneled into the product roadmap. I meet with the product team to make sure that all of our projects that we are working on together really jive and meet the larger goal of what we're trying to build. I have one-on-ones regularly with my team, with other stakeholders across the company, to make sure that morale is really just there, right? Like if employees and people just don't feel drive, you need to know that, because a lot of product is planning. You're always planning. You're always planning to build, you're planning to launch, you're planning to gather requirements, you're planning everything. So typical day, start my morning, 9 a.m. I'm in meetings probably for 4 to 6 hours straight. And then after that, I am documenting like crazy. I am documenting while I'm in meetings. I am documenting while I am not in meetings. And then at the end of the day, I try to consolidate my thoughts into a coherent plan for the next day or the next week or the next quarter. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. I fully understand, like there are typical days are, I think, pretty rare. I don't know that I've talked to anybody to answer that kind of question that's been like, oh yeah, and every day you do this and every Wednesday I do that. I mean, I don't know, like it's not something that I would be super happy with in my life, honestly. Like I need the change to keep me going, and the kind of jumping from thing to thing. But I love kind of hearing from people who also are like, yeah, there's no typical day. That's not a thing for us.
I mean,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
The meetings stay the same. Like I do have a reoccurring set of meetings, but the information and the reactions, the responses that come from those are very different, I think. And so the people that I end up needing to talk to are going to be different day to day. I think she muted herself, guys.
There we go. I found it. Sorry, I lost my screen behind all of my tabs here. I think that's a really great and actually segues us into our next question here pretty well. There are, let's see, where did it go? There we go. This person had asked, what's a good way to look into startups or seed businesses that are more apt to seek out associates or PMs with less experience? So I think this is a really good question, because like you'd said, there are some companies that they want somebody with experience and that's all they're going to take. So do you think that there's certain things that you can look out for to see if a company might be more interested in less experienced PMs?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So in my case, I didn't come from like the traditional PM background. Like I don't have an MBA. I don't have I didn't have any product background really. Like I transitioned via the company I was working with. And I quite frankly think if you are starting out with that, it's a lot easier to do it within your own company, to transition as a product manager within your own company first before trying to make the jump to another company with this title. And the only reason I say that is while you can adjust your resume as needed to really frame yourself in that product mindset, it's also a lot harder to walk through the experiences and give kind of solutions or advice or even ask the typical product questions that you would in an interview. So if you have the opportunity, I would really try and move up through your current company before trying to make the jump to another one. And I feel like I've forgotten the main point of the question.
All right. So the question was talking about like basically how can you try and seek out roles that will accept you as a PM that don't have as much experience. And this person was talking about looking into like startups or seed businesses. Do you have any experience with that?
Looking into roles at startups, I personally have never actually, oh my goodness, words. I've never sought out working at a startup until I actually got to Helm. And I got here, thankfully, via a recommendation from another fantastic PM. So I don't really have any experience getting into the role of startups outside of that.
Okay, that's all right. If you are joining us on the line today and you have experience with startups, like please let us know. Share what your experience has been. We're happy to learn from, like we talked about, multiple sources. So please feel free to share there. All right, we have about, let's see, 48, 12. We have about 12 minutes left in today's session. So if you have questions that you want to ask Anna, please feel free to keep sending them in here. I want to make sure we try and get to as many of these as possible, so we'll keep moving. Let's see here. Okay, one person had asked, and I thought this was honestly very interesting. It looks like product management has kind of become a very coveted role, and they were wondering, do you think that this is a fad, or do you think like we're kind of looking at something like an equity research analyst we're seeing at the start of the net boom 20 years ago? Now, obviously that kind of predates us, but do you think that this is like that product management is becoming kind of like the hot topic right now? Do you think that this is a fad of like a bunch of people getting in on this, or do you think maybe that's maybe not a real correct interpretation of of the trends in the market right now?
I do think there is a major boom in product management in general, but I also think it's strongly driven by just technology in general. Tech companies are really taking over, in my opinion. You've got streaming companies, you've got fintech, education tech, civic tech, like normal tech. I don't know. So I feel like because we are moving more towards this like technology, internet, computer driven kind of society and lifestyle, that product management is actually going to stick around for quite some time. While there are not really many hard things I can say or tangible things I can say, I did this and this is what happened. I have also seen a lot of companies who didn't have successful product owners in the required roles that kind of failed. Like their engineering teams were amazing, but they never had that conversation with the market to make sure that what they were building met the market's needs. So you're over here building something fantastic, but the business doesn't need it. Or alternatively, the business thinks that you're going to build something and then it never gets translated over to engineers in a proper fashion for really them to make that connection. So I do think product management is going to be here for quite some time. I hope it's here for quite some time because this is the direction. So
Yes,
you'd hope.
Oh, fingers crossed, right? It's like I honestly hope that not that I want COVID to continue, but I want this trend of remote work becoming more and more common to continue. So there's a lot of people that are very interested, very loving the direction some of the stuff is taking, which is wonderful, especially since we could use a little bit of things going according to plan, right? Especially now. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, like, we had a ton of people that had questions about transferable skills, and a lot of people were asking for pointers on how to creatively present those unrelated skills, all this kind of stuff. Let's boil it down to kind of the core here. What do you think, or what have you seen hiring managers really looking for in a PM candidate?
This is also a hard question to answer because it really depends. It depends on a couple of things, but this one I can actually kind of segment out into a couple points. It depends on where or what need the hiring manager is trying to fill. If there is a need to do more of that exploratory research, that market adoption kind of research, then they're likely going to look for someone who is a subject matter expert in the industry, not necessarily the field they're going into. So like if you know everything about fashion, the supply chain, the vendors, the retailers, what trends are coming and what trends are gone, like that's good information for you to know to bring that vision to life. However, if a company or if a hiring manager within a company is really looking for someone to just build, make sure we are building the right thing. We know what we want. We know what we're trying to impact. We know why we're trying to impact it. We just need it to be built in the right fashion, in the right order to meet our timelines. Then they're going to be looking for someone who is more executionary, more in the trenches with the engineers. There's less requirements gathering and more micro decisions being made day to day. So like, to me, there are two different types of subject matter experts. Again, there is that industry and then there is your field, right? And I am data. My industry is, I don't know, ad tech, fashion, and civic tech, right? Like I don't have a market necessarily, a market subject matter expertise, but anything data, pipelines, ETLs, like entity resolution, you name it, I'm your girl. And that's where I'm at. So I think it really depends on where the company is at for what the hiring manager is looking for. But at the end of the day, they're always going to be looking for someone who can effectively empower their teams and make the right judgment calls based off of like where they are in their life cycle.
Ooh, okay. All right, we have almost 6 minutes left. I want to make sure we get to, we have a little bit of time to talk about Helm, but I'm going to give you one last question. Do you recommend any kind of continuing education classes, workshops? Are there certain, like blogs or anything that you follow to like keep up, when it comes to staying, staying current with your skills and stuff?
Yeah, so this I think goes back to whatever field you're trying to get into. If I'm in data, I'm constantly reading just data blogs. I like to look into, I'm also like a product owner for the application team. So that is a new foray for me. I've never done that before. So when I first got this team, I looked into what makes a good application. Like, what is a service? What is a back-end service? What is a front-end service? What are components? Like, just really learning even the lingo of the engineers so that I can properly translate and communicate what I'm trying to say and get across to them is really key. I also think really just looking inward at yourself and what skills you are trying to better, where you find yourself lacking in your soft skills, whether it be communication, whether it be decision making, critical thinking, problem solving, whatever the case may be, and just like soaking in as much information about that as possible, so that those are the transferable skills that are going to be taken everywhere. And those are the ones that are most useful. Like, you can learn a hard skill anytime, but those soft skills you got to regularly try and grow and be better at every single day.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's those hard skills are something that, I mean, it's not that soft skills aren't teachable. It's just, you're right. You have to have the drive and want to develop that skill. Otherwise, it's going to take a lot longer and be a much, much harder uphill climb. If you're like, well, I have to be empathetic. How do I do that? Maybe Google some more about what empathy is. Like, just, I'm not telling you what to do. Maybe just, look into it. Okay, so the slide that you see in front of you is a bunch of questions that we had asked Anna prior to today's event about Helm. So let's talk a little bit about this. I'm really interested in, especially your favorite part about working at Helm. What do you feel is like kind of the heart of that mission? Like, what do you think is the part that people are so committed to?
Yeah, so the mission of Helm specifically is to like really empower civic change. And I love being a part of that kind of movement, right? Like, our voices are so hard to be heard, even within our own communities, and especially broadcasting out to the larger just demographic and country. And with that comes the people that work at Helm. Like, I love everybody at Helm and all of their commitment to the mission. They come from such various backgrounds, but that all kind of stem from this want and desire to make an impact and change the world for the better. And it is freaking fantastic just being surrounded by that level of commitment to the just general industry. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, my Slack alerts have decided to unpause themselves.
You are good. Mine were paused and they're going to turn off here in about 2 minutes. So yeah, no worries there. We're all very busy people, and it's, I don't think you're alone. And I hope you're not like me, to the point that like the Slack noise gives you a little bit of like a PTSD twitch kind of thing of like, what have I missed?
It does. It absolutely does. Wake up in the morning, 6:30. Oh my goodness, there's already 100 Slacks here.
Let's see. I'm looking here. I'm saving the chat here because people are asking, like, saying they can't copy the links or anything. But if you're, I'll keep posting them again. So if you want to grab those, you can do that. Let's talk about your tips for someone who's interviewing. Are these tips Helm specific, or do you think that they are applicable no matter where you're applying?
I mean, I would love them to be everywhere specific, right? The second one is definitely everywhere specific. Interviews, and I think we touched on this earlier, question everything. Interviews are a two-way street. You need to figure out whether or not this company is right for you. You need to figure out whether this position is right for you. And in the event that you know that, still question them, because you want to know, you're trying to gather information on how you can be better and how you can better this company, this role, how you can be better for the team, and how well you can actually do and really make suggestions. The deliberately be yourself. I would love to be that in everywhere thing. But I can definitely say that at Helm, like, we absolutely celebrate diversity. We celebrate differences of opinions. We celebrate different backgrounds, different perspectives. Again, I am not of the civic industry, yet here I am surrounded by a bunch of people who are. And quite frankly, I think they appreciate, my non-knowing of it, because it gives a third-party perspective onto how things should be done. And quite frankly, like, that's great. Like, I love being able to just be myself and know that it's okay.
Oh my gosh, yes. I literally had a conversation just like this with one of my friends because she's back job searching. And we were talking about, her application, and she wanted to send a thank you note after. And the way she talked to me about how excited she was about the role was not how she talked about it in the thank you. And I was like, you're in a creative role. They want you to be excited about this. Tell them, like you told me, how excited you are. Bring that out, that part of yourself. Because you're right. It might not really be acceptable, like, to some companies, but it's better to know that from the jump, to know that, like, oh, I'm going to have to, kind of put on a different face every time I come into work here. And maybe, and also we say this, and please take this all with a grain of salt, because I'm fully aware there are plenty of people that are not resourced enough to be able to say, that job's not quite a great fit for me. I want to keep looking. So please understand that, we give this advice because we want y'all to have like the best possible experience, but we are also realistic. There are a lot of times, and I've been there plenty, where you have to take the job and it kind of sucks, but it also helps you decide what you really want out of a job that hopefully can help you get closer to that in your next role. So yeah, I love this. Anna, we're at the end of time, but I just want to say big thank you. You were incredible on today's chat. Tons of love for you in the chat about your transparency and being so honest and your sense of humor is also very much appreciated as well. So just thank you so much for that. It's been really, really wonderful to spend the last hour with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank everybody for joining. I really enjoy doing things like this, and I hope you all took some nuggets away. I hope.
Yes. Oh, I can tell you for sure. I know I sure did. Yeah, that's going to bring us to the end of time today. Thank you again to our wonderful audience. Y'all submitted great questions. It was so awesome to see y'all so active in the chat. If you are new to Power to Fly, if this was maybe one of your first events or you haven't really worked with us before, welcome. Like, we're so happy to have met you, and I hope that we'll see you on many more events going forward. If you are one of our frequent flyers, and I see you a lot, thank you so much. It's wonderful to see you back here, and we hope to see many more of you join us for future events. Have a great rest of your Thursday. If I don't see you before the weekend, have a safe, happy, healthy, pleasant weekend. And we'll be back with you tomorrow with more great content. So see you then, guys. Bye.
Bye.